Good morning and welcome to Newsfirst Prime Time Sunrise.
Hello there, very good morning and welcome to Newsfirst Prime Time Sunrise with me, Shane Silva, on the 18th of July 2014. In your headlines this morning now, 295 people suspected killed in downed Malaysian airliner. Reports state that the plane was brought down by a missile. Trade union action launched by the profession supplementary to medicine to be called off at 8 a.m. today. And the accepting of postal vote applications for the Uber provincial elections to commence today. Now, as mentioned in your headlines this morning, a Malaysian airliner bound for Kuala Lumpur from Amsterdam was brought down over eastern Ukraine yesterday, killing all 295 people aboard and sharply raising stakes in a conflict between Kiev and pro-Moscow rebels in which Russia and the West back opposing sides.
Ukraine accused terrorists, militants fighting to unite eastern Ukraine with Russia, of shooting down the Malaysia Airlines Boeing 777 with a heavy Soviet-era ground-to-air missiles as it flew from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur. Leaders of the rebels in the Donetsk People's Republic denied any involvement, although around the same time their military commander said his forces had downed a much smaller Ukrainian transport plane, their third such kill this week. The scale of the disaster affecting scores of foreigners could prove a turning point for international pressure to resolve a crisis that has claimed hundreds of lives in Ukraine since pro-Western protests toppled the Moscow-backed president in Kiev in February and Russia annexed Crimea a month later. As word came in of what Ukraine's Western-backed president called a terrorist attack, the Russian and US leaders Vladimir Putin and Barack Obama were discussing a new round of economic sanctions that Washington and its EU partners imposed on Moscow on Wednesday to try to force Putin to do more to curb the revolt against the Western-backed government in Kiev. Malaysia Airlines said air traffic controllers lost contact with flight MH17 at 14:15 GMT as it flew over eastern Ukraine towards the Russian border, bound for Asia with 280 passengers and 15 crew on board. Flight tracking data indicated it was at its crashing altitude of 33,000 feet when it disappeared. An emergency worker said at least 100 bodies had been found so far and that debris was spread over 15 kilometers. Workers were scouring the area for the black box flight recorders. The military command of the rebels, a Russian named Igor Strelkov, had written on his social media page half an hour before the last reported contact with MH17 that his forces had brought down an Antonov AN-26 in the same area. It is a turboprop transport plane of a type used by Ukraine's forces. A rebel leader said Ukrainian forces shot the airliner down and the rebel forces did not have weaponry capable of hitting a plane flying 10 kilometers up. Ukrainian officials said their military was not involved in the incident.
Ukraine's state security chief accused two Russian military intelligence officers of involvement with the pro-Russian rebels in the downing of the Malaysian aircraft, releasing chilling testimony of what he called, quote, inhuman crime, unquote. The allegation was based on intercepted telephone conversations between the two officers and pro-Russian fighters. Now, we have an excerpt of that conversation right here on News First for your viewing pleasure.
Самолет, группа минера за Янакиева упал. Поехали искать и фотографировать сбитый самолет. Дымится. Сколько минут назад? 30 минут назад где-то. Да, майор.
Значит, это Чернухинские сбили самолет.
Кто сбил?
С Чернухинского блокпоста. Казаки, что на Чернухина стоят.
Да, майор.
Значит, самолет рассыпался в воздухе в районе шахты Петропавловской. Первый 200-й. Нашли первого 200-го. Была женщина. Да, гражданский.
On to local stories now. The trade union action launched by the profession supplementary to medicine at 112 hospitals will be called off from 8 a.m. today. Speaking to Newsfirst earlier on this morning, the General Secretary of the Joint Trade Union Alliance of the Profession Supplementary to Medicine, Samanja Sekara, stated that the objectives of the action were achieved. He added that the Ministry of Health had been provided 2 weeks' notice prior to the strike action. Jayasekara added that several key hospitals had not been included in the trade union action. The protesters cited 6 reasons for their trade union action, including the delay in granting appointments to 200 graduates in the field, the failure to provide first-grade promotions over the past 8 years, and the failure to create a position of director for PSM services. Yesterday, the trade union action was carried out across 21 base hospitals and 62 district hospitals in the western, southern and central provinces. However, the trade union action was not in effect at the Lady Ridgeway Hospital for Children, the Castle Street Hospital for Women, the Zoisa Hospital, the Maharagama Cancer Hospital, the Ketumati Hospital in Panadura and the Specialized Children's Hospital in Peradeniya. In the meantime, issuing a release, the Ministry of Health stated that they had taken steps to meet 5 of the demands. The Ministry noted that these matters had been directed to a Cabinet subcommittee after having been discussed at Cabinet level on the 19th of last month. The Ministry further appealed to the Joint Trade Union Alliance not to engage in trade union action where the demands were being met. In its release, the Ministry further requested the profession supplementary to medicine to discuss their issues with the Ministry prior to engaging in any trade union action in the future. The Ministry of National Languages and Social Integration has declared a Social Integration Week. We now have with us the Secretary to the Ministry, Mrs. M.S. Vikramasinghe, to speak to us in this regard. Good morning, Madam.
Good morning.
Madam, could you please explain to us on the plans for the week?
The Ministry of National Languages and Social Integration has declared a Social Integration Week commencing the 14th of July to the 20th, and this is the 3rd consecutive year that we are celebrating social integration towards creating national unity. The main objective of this program is to create awareness among the people and interest among the people that it is not only the state that could bring about promoting social integration and ultimately moving towards national unity, that it's the responsibility of other ministries, organizations and the civil society and the citizens as a whole. So we have lined up quite a bit of activities right through the country. This year we started with the cultural program in Polonnaruwa, where we thought that we need to use art and culture as a tool for promoting social integration. And one of the main features of this week's initiatives is the opening of the ministry's provincial centers. The government has approved the establishment of 9 provincial centers of the ministry, and the first of this was opened in Kilinochchi for the northern province on the 15th, and today we would be opening our second center in the Sabaragamuwa province in Kuruvita. And then also a new initiative is the Kite Festival, which we would be having tomorrow in 7 locations along the beaches of Sri Lanka. But we would also be bringing in people from the center towards the beaches, which has been organized through week-long workshops where we created awareness among the people how they could be part of this initiative. The main objective of this kite festival is where we feel that the kites, when they fly, have no limits, and there's so much of diversity when we admire the kites with different shapes, kinds and colors. And then what we really feel is that the society is also so, which is so diverse in terms of different colors, there are different categories of people, and we think all of us could get together and thereafter share our views, and this would be an initiative where we would be able to promote social integration through recreational activity.
Madam, you just elaborated on the plans for this week. Now, moving forward, what are the future plans that the ministry has in line? We understand now we have the social integration week that's happening, but moving forward, what are the plans that are there in the pipeline for social integration?
And I think we consider language learning as one of the key initiatives through which we could bring about promoting social integration, where we could build trust among people as a tool, because communication is very vital for people to understand each other and build trust. So this our ministry has already launched this language societies right through the country. Presently we have over 2,000 societies registered right through the country, and the government is providing full support for people who have a desire to learn the other language to get engaged as societies, and we provide full support for them to learn the language. It's mainly conversational language, so that you could converse with the other person. So the language societies we hope to also make use as a tool to promote social integration, and also to act as mediators in the event of any conflicts that could arise in their localities. And we want to empower the members of these societies also to look into areas where there are language rights violations in their locality. So it's a long drawn process, and we hope presently we are quite happy with the responses of the people who have joined these societies and who are working with this, and I hope we'll be able to expand it further.
Ms. Vikramasinghe, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
The Election Secretariat states that the accepting of postal vote applications for the UA provincial elections will commence today. Speaking to Newsfirst earlier on, Deputy Elections Commissioner M.M. Mohammed stated that the deadline will be the 6th of August. He added that no extension will be provided.